So now we are told that a university claims that more than 80% of their graduates find jobs within 6 months. Within 6 months. Within 6 months of their graduation. The Vice Chancellor was concerned whether they should advertise this claim in their university brochures. Now, in a random sample of 300 of their graduates, 250 said they were employed within 6 months of their graduation. Test the university's claim with alpha equal to 0.1. That means the level of significance is about 10. So alpha is equal to 0.1, and that is the probability that is giving us the level of significance on which we shall base our test. So this is coming from an area called proportions. And so to test the hypothesis for these proportions, we need to understand that this can be a Z-test. This can be what we call a T-test or a T-statistic. But now, how do we test that? Okay. How do we test that? So if n is greater than 30, then we use a Z. If n is less than 30, then we use a T. But here we can see that n is greater than 30, and therefore we are going to use a Z-statistic. But the Z-statistic for proportions is calculated from P, okay? P, the proportion which is given, minus the P hypothetical divided by P2, square root of P2 out of n. So here, this one is the given proportion. P is the hypothesized or the hypothetical or hypothesized proportion, and Q is equal to 1 minus P. That's what we have to understand. But from this problem, we are told that the claim is that more than 80%. So that means the proportion that is being hypothesized is 0.8 or 80%. That means our P from here is going to be 80%. And this is the one that is going to give us our basis for formulating the null hypothesis. So what is the null hypothesis? The null hypothesis is going to be that the proportion of the graduates that find their that find the jobs within 6 months is 80% or 0.8. And then the null hypothesis is that of course you can have either that P less than 80 equal to 80 or greater than 80, but the claim is saying more than. So since they are saying more than, then the null hypothesis is going to be P greater than 80. So the alternative hypothesis is going to be P greater than 80%. Then the null hypothesis is going to be P is equal to 0.8 or 80%. So null hypothesis. That is H naught. H naught is saying that our P is 0.8. And the alternative hypothesis which is H1 is P greater than 0.8 according to what is here. The university claims that more than 80%. So we have to carry out a test to either accept this claim or refute the claim. So from there, what is your Q? So your Q is obviously going to be 1 minus 0.8, giving you 0.2. So we are going to calculate our Z statistic. Our Z statistic is going to be maybe what is this proportion P that is within that was done on this sample. The one that was done on the sample is 250 said, 250 out of 300 said they were employed within 6 months. Therefore, that P is going to be 250 divided by 300. So 250 divided by 300 is 0.833. P that is 0.833 recurring. So that means our Z is going to be 0.833 minus 0.8. We divide it by square root of 0.8 times 0.2 and everything out of n, whereby n is 300. So let us calculate that. 0.833 minus 0.8, okay, divided by square root of 0.2 times 0.8. Then we multiply by 300. So this one is going to give us 1.43. That is our calculated Z. So this is our calculated Z value. So we are going to use the level of significance at 10%. Okay, that is we are going to look for the probability the Z value that corresponds to 0.1. So we look for Z value that corresponds to a portion of 0.1 or the probability. So this will give us the critical value of Z. So let's go to our tables and look for that value. So let's use this. We said the one that corresponds to 0.1 is negative 1.28. So what we are going to do, we are going to draw, let's draw our normal distribution curve. So the value that we are looking for is that we are looking at more than. So we are looking at a one tail test, but which is a right tail test. So we are looking at values on this other side of the curve. Much as we have the same values on this side, we have the same values on this other side, but the sign is different. This is 0. We said this is alpha 0.1, and the value is negative 1.28. So that means we have alpha 0.1, and the value here is 1.28. So the rejection region is there. Now let's indicate where our 1.43 lies on this curve. So 1.43 is above 1.28, so it is lying this other side. So 1.43. So we can see that the value calculated is in the rejection region. And so we reject the null hypothesis. We reject the null hypothesis. So that means if we reject the null hypothesis, we are adopting the fact that the proportion that the university claims to have gotten the jobs within their first 6 months of graduation is 0.8 or 80%. So the decision that we are making is that we are adopt the null, the alternative hypothesis. We are adopting the alternative hypothesis because we can see, according to the test that we have done, it is showing us that we reject the null hypothesis which says p is equal to 0.8. So if we reject the null hypothesis, that means we are going to take the alternative hypothesis that says p is actually greater than 0.8. And therefore, the claim of the university is okay, and therefore they can go ahead and advertise this claim in their university brochures. So that is the decision that you make. You conclude like that, and therefore that conclusion of yours is going to advise the next course of action that the Vice Chancellor is going to take.